Have you ever wanted to add curses or blessings into your tabletop role-playing games? Well, I'm going to give you a mechanic that's pretty hackable. It can be used for most tabletop role-playing games, and I describe it in more detail in this month's micro-monthly cursed and blessed items. So this micro-monthly has a bunch of different tables that work specifically for along the ley line, but the basic mechanic can be easily added to any kind of tabletop role-playing game that uses dice or any kind of numbering to determine the outcome. Here's how it works. Every time the cursed item is used and you roll an odd number, the curse on the item activates. And the curse can do lots of different things. It can cause you to lose HP, lose mind points, maybe suffer a condition, whatever you want to add to it. Just every single time it's rolled, that condition is added to the person who used it. Now, I don't have a lot of details for a long-lasting curse, a thing that would act like Smeagol, how he was affected by the ring in Lords of the Rings, how it kind of weared away at him over the time. But you could easily add that by coming up with your own little table, and every single time they use it, they maybe go further and further down the table. Now, I didn't go into that much detail in this book, in this little zine, Curses and Blessed Items, but I do describe different things. As you can see, I've got, just looking at, there's like common curses and common blessings where you can be blinded, or you can be hyped, you can be protected from things, you could be shocked, you could trip, you could be filthy, you could be groomed. Or we've got skill curses, which affects your skills, or you get disadvantage on blocks or dodges, or you have disadvantage on saving throws, or you can gain advantage on those as well from the blessings. And then I've got rarer curses where like the item breaks, or it explodes, or becomes indestructible, or you increase your HP permanently by 1, or you reduce it permanently by 1. So these would be like larger effects that could occur. And in the back, I give you a whole list of conditions that you can also find in the referee's toolkit. But these are just kind of a generalized start to curses, because really there's like no end to coming up how the item might be cursed. It could be something that causes the player to change over time. Maybe it causes them to become like a Jekyll and Hyde version, where they become more and more mutated, more wicked and corrupted. Or maybe they become like a werewolf, where it sticks with them. If you read this month's micro-monthly blog post, I'll talk in more details about different ways that you might use those curses. I talked about how you could have the curse be a condition where it only occurs on a specific time of day, or in a specific place, or when around another specific item. And you can tailor your curses to be very, very specific. But before I go on, I want to talk a little bit about how this may affect player psychology. Whoa, did you know that you can get supplements for Along the Ley Line for free? That's right, all you have to do is sign up to the Substack and you can get zines like this for free. This one's Temple of Bones. It's a whole adventure. And this one is all about these cool new species raccoonteers. This one's got forests on it, and it's got forest folk in it, an expansion for players. It's awesome. Sign up now. It's free. Anytime you reward a player for something, they're going to want to do that more. And anytime you punish a player for doing something, they're going to want to do that less. Now, it should be pointed out that you, the referee, shouldn't be rewarding and punishing players haphazardly. You should instead try to run the world as a real world. And if players do something that would, in that world, give them a reward, you should reward them for it. And if they do something that would cause some kind of negative effect, you should have that negative consequence occur. You shouldn't make things not real, because the less real your world, the less consequence for their actions, the less real it seems to the players. Let's stop for a coffee break, as I try to collect my thoughts and not talk too quickly. So we were talking about player psychology, and this really has been studied like with Pavlov's dog, right? When you ring the bell, out comes the treat. And it was later further expanded by B.F. Skinner when he was looking at how to train pigeons and other organisms to respond and do something. And you can see this a lot in games with Skinner boxes, and particularly whenever you don't know if that activity will occur or not. Your action may or may not result in the reward, and that draws us into it. We want to partake in that kind of relationship more frequently, in that kind of activity more frequently than one where we automatically know what the outcome is. There's interest because we don't know if it's going to happen or not. We call these Skinner boxes, and it's really important to try to develop your game not to negatively abuse that. But with a curse that could or could not occur on an item, or a blessing that could or could not occur on an item every single time you use it, it makes it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more, what's the word? A little bit more intriguing. Am I going to get the reward? Am I going to get that punishment? I don't know. We'll have to roll to find out. And that makes the game more exciting for the players. It becomes a risk-reward scenario. Now, I recommend putting really heavy curses on really awesome magic items. Like in The Lord of the Rings. The ring has super power, right? You become invincible with the ring, but it slowly corrupts you. The curse slowly infects your heart, and you can't use it, right? You shouldn't use it because the curse will tear away at you and Sauron will eventually win. Now, adding a kind of item like that in your game will raise the stakes and make it quite interesting. But if it was just super powerful, if it was only super powerful and no curse, well then it's not as interesting because you can just go and use that super powerful I win in one turn move and there's no consequences for it. So you just win, game over, why are we still playing the game? But if you add a curse to it, if you take this item that should you use it, something negative could happen as well. Yeah, you get the positive, you get the superpower, but also some other consequence. Then it becomes much more interesting at your table. So I recommend if you're going to give players a super powerful magic item, maybe also add a curse to that item. Now, I do want to point out, just like traps, you shouldn't have super deadly and debilitating curses placed on items without the players knowing it. The players have to make the choice, and if they don't know that the item is cursed, then they're not really making a choice to use the item. Now, that doesn't mean they have to know what the curse does, and it doesn't mean that they have to have specific knowledge of the curse, but it should be broadcasted in some way, just like a trap is broadcasted. You have to tell the players that something weird is about this item. Maybe it's emanating dark magic, maybe you feel your soul sucking out of it and into it. You've got to give the players some kind of hint that something bad could happen if they use the item, before they use the item. Now, you could straight up just tell your players, this item's cursed. This is what happens to it if you use it. And that would be appropriate, especially if the players are looking at the item and trying to figure out what it does. You can absolutely share that information with them if the player character could learn that information. It's totally appropriate to give that information away. But what you don't want is a super deadly curse on an item and then the player uses it and they didn't know it was there and now all of a sudden their character's dead. That's a no fun zone. Nobody likes that. On the other hand, if they know that the item is cursed and choose to use it anyway, it becomes this really intense moment at the table where everyone is paying attention because maybe this item that they're using to save the day could kill the user. And that is great storytelling. On the other end of the spectrum, you have blessings. And blessings are boons whenever you use the item. And they work the same way. Whenever you roll an odd number, you gain that blessing. Now, blessings make using the item more, more incentivized. Whenever you have a super powerful magic item, you might not also want to put a blessing on it because then that just doubles up the superpower. Now, obviously, the players are going to want to do this. They're going to want to add blessings onto already super powerful magic items so that they could be even more super powerful and awesome. Like, who doesn't want to do that? This would be appropriate, especially if you've been playing a long campaign and it's toward the end and they're going to face the final boss. And maybe they get a blessing from their deity placed on their super powerful magic item so that they can overcome this super powerful evil. that's narratively appropriate. But you probably don't want to give it to your level 1 guy. You don't want to give them like a super powerful magic flaming sword that also gives them a blessing of super strength every time they use it. That's just overpowered, and it's not going to make for as enjoyable of a game. I know the players might think that, everyone thinks that might be fun, but it just becomes an I win button, and then you wonder why I'm playing the game. So, blessings might be better placed on items that don't do the thing you thought. Or maybe they're underpowered in other ways. Maybe they have a butter knife that every time they attack with it, gives them a blessing of they get advantage on lockpicking the next time they use it. And that would be really interesting, because now why are you stabbing the bad guy with a butter knife? It's not doing much damage, you're barely hurting them. Well, it's because I need to get into the vault that's behind them and I want advantage for it. So then it becomes a shifting of how the player is using which items they have. One thing we haven't talked about is how these items get blessed or cursed. And I kind of leave that to the referee as to what they want to put blessings and curses on. I'm just saying maybe try and use it. Now, you might have deities in your world, and the deities absolutely would be a great and easy narrative way of saying how the item got blessed or cursed. But you could also have it be found in tombs. Lots of tabletop role-playing games, it's fantasy in particular, goes into tombs, and maybe these items were blessed or cursed because of how they were used by the person who buried them there, that they were buried with. Maybe their actions of bravery made it blessed, or maybe their actions of villainy caused it to be cursed. So that could also be a narrative way of adding it. What could be really interesting is if your players, by the actions that they do, good or evil, could cause the items that they possess to become blessed or cursed because of what they did. That could be a very interesting narrative reason for any character to be acting in a particular way. And especially if you want your game world to reflect good and evil pretty strongly, curses and blessings could be added onto them. Now, if you want to flip that on its head and cause your good actions to cause curses and your bad actions to cause blessings to balance out the forces of good and evil in your world, that could be even more mind-blowing. But you play your game and your world how you want to. So blessings and curses are a common narrative trope in fantasy games, and they can bring a lot of vigor, a lot of narrative storytelling to your game if used appropriately. I hope you'll try to use curses or blessings in your game. If you do, or you've already used it, tell me about it in the comments below. I'm curious to see how you're using blessings and curses in your games. And if you apply this rule that I talked to you about, it occurs on an odd roll, let me know how it worked for you in another game system if you've applied it there. Well, I hope you'll check out this Micro Monthlies 10. It is free and you can grab it on Substack. It's free to sign up for, and I'll email you a different supplement every single month. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing and liking this video. I hope all your games are full of dread and laughter.